When I was in grade 6, I had a music teacher named Mr. Gardner. Now, Mr. Gardner was known for his "how the hell is he talking to elementary school kids like this" type speeches. And one time in particular, he dropped some unsupported estimations on some still sheltered minds. He started throwing out numbers about the 22 of 24 of us who would drink until we were physically ill before we graduated, or the 5 of us who probably wouldn't graduate at all. He made predictions that over half of us would regularly use illegal substances, and that one thing he predicted was that one of us would be seriously injured in a car accident on Macaulay Road.
If they ask me about you, I will tell them about your heart and the way that you feel the world, the way it moves through you.
Aiden Flanagan loved fishing as much as he loved skipping school. And he was definitely part of that 22 who indulged in alcohol on the weekends, probably sometimes until he was physically ill. I know for a fact that he experimented with mild psychedelics. And he was 1 month away from graduating when he passed away in a car accident en route to his childhood home at the end of Macaulay Road.
If they ask me about you, I will talk about the love that I've seen in the way that you move, across the rivers and the beaches, climbing mountains with poetry in your pockets and filling wrinkled notebooks with maps of the places you've seen, the ones that came to you in dreams.
Macaulay Road was notoriously bad. It was lined by hay fields and thick forests that were home to drunk drivers and nervous deer. It was especially bad at twilight, and one morning my mother and I were driving to the mountain when we struck a deer. It was like survival instincts kicked in the instant our fender hit it, and all of its limbs started wailing. It looked more like a spider than a deer, and it just didn't seem to realize that it was no longer standing up. It was just trying to go. I do remember, though, it definitely was aware that it was still alive.
If they ask me about you, I will tell them about my friend and the music we've shared, filling empty spaces, rooms, and cars with melody, stories, and laughter. I will talk about the poetry that struck common chords and the romanticism that filled open spaces in history, polished by the pens and lenses of a long-dead hero, carrying gold-tinged dreams through Yukon winters and the funerals of his friends.
The logger pulled up to our brake lights when he saw the animal frantic in the ditch. I don't actually remember how the interaction started. I just remember that he wore a worn wool sweater and that he had a sledgehammer in his work truck. The man said to my mother, "Everything is going to be okay. I have this under control, and you guys are good to go on." And we did. We continued our drive and subsequently carried on with our lives.
If they ask me about you, I will tell them about your strength of body, mind, and spirit. I will talk about the way that you beat down parts of yourself and held them there so you could grow in other ways. I'll talk about the paddles and the skis, the running shoes and shovels, the piles of dirt and clay you turned into a home and left there as a token to the people who you helped to teach.
About a week after Aiden passed away, I pulled up to the brake lights of an empty school bus. The fawn was in her lap as the bus driver tried to use Reiki healing movements to pull the pain from its eyes past blood-speckled white spots and broken hind legs. And I said to her, "Everything is going to be okay. I have this under control and you are good to go." And she did. And I went back to my truck with little to no emotion and looked at my steak knife and the 3-iron golf club I had in the back and carried them with the weight of a sledgehammer as I was shown and walked towards the fawn.
If they ask me about you, I will talk about the heart that beats inside your chest, the rhythm that propels you, pulsing blood and life through your veins. I'll talk about your heart as a muscle that works, tears, and burns. Your heart, a muscle strong enough to pick up those around you, strong enough to break the trail and come back with stories of adventure and caution, ripped shirts and muddy shoes.
Although it was, I didn't stop that morning because it was my turn to be a man. I stopped that morning because I was one of 23 who heard Mr. Gardner's voice at night when I drove through sketchy situations and navigated my way home through winter roads. I stopped that morning because I needed to face death through that deer's eyes and see if I actually understood.
If they ask me about you, I will tell them about your blood and that your family inspires you. I'll talk about the way that you search for history through weathered faces and metal-covered chests. I'll talk about your loyalty that carries you, that drives you south to pick up friends and keeps you digging when the snow settles over the bodies of your partners.
The lessons of death I faced on Macaulay Road were facilitated by three very different men. The logger, who preserved my innocence as a youth by carrying a burden he didn't have to and decided to deal death's hand himself. And Aidan Flanagan, who showed just how much enjoyment could be packed into 18 years if you skipped enough school and loved your girlfriend. And Mr. Gardner. God, I hated Mr. Gardner for so long. I felt he was somehow responsible, somehow he manifested this, or he could have done more. It took a long time for the fuck to become thank yous. When I realized that there is more than one way to be remembered as a man.
If they ask me about you, I hope that they'll have time to listen.